PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, the Star Wars podcast, featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PLD Projects. Welcome back to Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast. I am your host, PLD, of PLD Projects, the titular host, as you were. And with me, as always, I don't know if you say the titular sidekick. You're not the titular sidekick.
You are the man whose name is on the tin.
That's true.
As we say over here. Your name is on the tin.
And with me, as always, one of my best friends in the world, Mr. Matty Gunner. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, that's really nice of you to say.
That's true. It's true. I mean, you want to talk
to the same to you. You're one of my best friends too. I love you, man.
I love you, man. I love you.
How are you doing?
I'm all right. A little punch drunk, a little like bobbing and weaving. Life's hit me a few times this week. Nothing bad, but like just tiring and chugging.
I can tell from the way your face is composed, you have never been punch drunk a day in your life.
That's probably true.
As opposed to me, where my nose is like,
Is that the nicest way of you telling me I look pretty? Is that what that is?
It's the nicest way of telling you that you are a pretty man, yes.
Fair enough. Well, considering how many times you've been hit, I'm impressed with how pretty you are, too.
It's a lot of times. I mean, other than, like I mentioned, my nose being all crooked and wonky and everything, but
it adds to your charm.
I still look okay.
It adds to your charm. Harrison Ford has a scar. You have the little bit of... No, it's all good. You still look good, man. That's all it is. I mean, look at this love fest we're going through right now.
Right. I got a question to ask you.
Okay, I got an answer. Hopefully,
we're gonna go off on a little tangent before we begin here because we're not going to talk about the news because the news is not important compared to what we saw. You're a fan of The Simpsons, yes?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really watch them anymore. I'll be honest with you. Like currently, but I watched a lot when I was younger.
You watched the originals, the classics, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to take us back to our little fast food topic real quick. The listeners of this show will know that like for the last few weeks, me and Paul have talked about food here and there.
Yeah, a little upset.
What is the deal with Simpsons essentially ruining the reputation of Arby's? It's like that one line from The Simpsons has ruined Arby's.
The Simpsons is a very powerful entity, and it's partially both for reasons like that and for reasons like they seem to just get the future right a lot. They make a lot of right predictions.
Groening is a time traveler.
Yes, absolutely. And that makes me think that they saw something about Arby's in the future and need to stop it. I don't know what it was necessarily. I don't know, like maybe in the alternate future before Groening was time traveling, perhaps Arby's took over the world through some kind of rotted meat scheme. I don't know. But I think we have to thank Matt Groening.
Yeah, there was the whole controversy about their meat, huh?
I think there was at one point. I gotta be honest with you, Arby's is not big around where I am. Like it never has been.
Where is it big in America?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I mean, I think it's probably big. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be bigger in like Midwest. Let's see. Actually, I'm kind of curious where. But I want to say like we have like one around me, but its location was always like it was just not a great location for me. It was like this little small, like dinky one in the middle of all these other shops, but it wasn't easy to get to. So if I was going to drive somewhere, I was going to go somewhere else. The only place I ever really had Arby's was on like the highway on the throughway at a rest area. We had a rest area Arby's, and I mean, I liked their roast beef sandwich. It was good. I thought when I think about it, I'm like, well, roast beef sandwich is a nice alternative to a burger place. You know, it's a little slightly alternative, but you still get what you need. You get the fries, you get the meat, and everything else. And it's got great commercials. And yet,
I'm going to say something that may shock you.
Okay.
It may shock you to your core. I'm well aware of the line from The Simpsons. I'm so hungry I could eat at Arby's that like essentially ruined their reputation.
Right.
Best curly fries I have ever had
were
from Arby's.
Interesting.
They have the best curly fries I have ever had.
Interesting. I don't honestly remember them very well, so they didn't strike a chord with me. But I don't know what. I'm not a huge curly fry guy. I'd give me a seasoned fry, give me a steak fry. I'm a big steak fry guy, but those aren't popular.
Steak fries are good.
And you don't get those at fast food joints, unfortunately. And
It's more like a sports bar or a pub kind of a deal.
And I'm in an island here. Like my family would never get steak fries. I used to buy, like when I buy fries for like, my own burgers and stuff, I try to buy steak fries a few times. And they're like, no, I want these fries. All right, fuck it. I want peace in the house. All right, I'll get you like the seasoned fries or whatever. But yeah, so it doesn't surprise me. I mean, they have. I do think actually they have better food than they claim. I wonder if I still think the Simpsons stopped them before they went bad. Maybe that's what happened. That's what it was.
I wish they'd have done the same with Five Guys. Because here's my thing. Good food, like good quality food, should be expensive, right?
Oh, okay.
Every time I leave Five Guys for what I paid, I want to find a way to commune with my dead grandparents and say, I'm sorry, you raised me better than this.
All right. I mean, I do like Five Guys restaurant. It's actually one we go to quite often, but I will fully admit it is definitely expensive.
For the price that they charge?
All the places are getting expensive these days. I went the other day to Wendy's and got a dinner for 4 of us.
I had Wendy's the other day.
And Wendy's is probably my favorite go-to, like really fast food joint of the big 3, like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, that kind of thing. I like Wendy's best, but at the same time, I'm like, I've popped over nearly $50, and I'm like, damn. I mean, for 3 people, so I get it, but it's still like back in the day. Like I remember, like 10 years ago, $20, $25 would have got me for 3. I'm like, Jesus, this is just getting ridiculous at times.
I want to shout out our patron, Jeff Altman. He changed the game for me because he told me to dip my fries in the shake at Wendy's.
That's an interesting That's an interesting thing. I've never done that myself.
At first, I thought he was out of his damn mind, as he is on many things.
That's true.
This one, he was not wrong.
You know what, though? The man knows his food. I will give him that. He knows his food.
He changed Nando's for me, dude. Nando's, something that I have eaten countless times in my life. He said, no, try it this way with the garlic peri-peri, and I was just like, holy.
I will say, I don't know if I can get behind the fry and the shake thing. Like, and I know you say it's wonderful, and he says it's wonderful, and it might be, but I have a hard time because I like my fries hot and salty. Like, so putting it in there.
It's kind of like, you can get like a malted shake, which is kind of like more salty.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like that, but like not as salty, it's more sweet. I don't know.
Well, I can't promise I'll do it, but I'll give it a shot someday. I don't know. We'll have to see.
But I feel like that we should be
definitely moving on.
Definitely moving on. But I'm making it my mission to restore the good name of Arby's.
Fair enough, my friend. Hey, I have nothing against Arby's. That's what I'll leave it. I don't have anywhere to go to. But on the thruway I drive, I have no problem stopping there and doing it. So. All right, actually, but sometimes I think I go in the throughway. We have a Burger King in there, so I'll choose Arby's over Burger King because I don't do Arby's at all. So it's like that nice, like little like.
That's scandalous. Choosing Burger King over Arby's.
No. I'm choosing Arby's over Burger King because like I never get to do Arby's. So I mean, there's that. So
if it was European Burger King, I'd understand. American Burger King, you guys don't do it right. You don't have the Doritos chili fries or anything.
No, not at all.
Right. Whenever you come here, the Doritos chili cheese fries.
Okay.
Doritos chicken chili cheese fries.
Okay. All right. I'll hold you to that. Oh
my God.
All right, folks. Enough of this. It's not holy Snokes food talk like it always seems to get to be in these days, but it is a fun time at all.
I'm cutting down. So
we are gonna, like Matty said, we're gonna issue the news again this week. A lot of that is partially because of my not being able to really truly dive into it. But I also figured it's a great idea that we need topics. We don't have any shows to do for at least a couple of weeks. We have we're gonna go into the Acolyte, obviously very shortly now. At this point, 3 weeks away after this episode, I think. So I figured the next episode we can just do a big news catch up on everything we've missed from the past like 3 weeks or so. And that should be a cool, fun episode to do that. So let's just leave that behind. I do want to talk briefly about the adventure I had this week. Obviously, it was May the 4th. I got my.
You did it too, huh?
And
you went on the 4th.
Actually, the funny thing is, I did not. I went on the 5th. I went Revenge of the 5th because I don't like people.
Let me correct you there. It's not Revenge of the 5th. It's There's Always a Bigger 5th.
Now, see, I like Revenge of the 5th and Revenge of the 6th both. Why? Because there's always 2 Sith.
What about I Am the 7th?
I like I Am the 7th as well. We can keep going on this one. I don't know what's 8th. I don't know. Do we have an 8th one? Is there one for 8? We'll figure that one out. We'll figure it out.
Keep going.
Anyway, I got my son and my daughter, and we both went. My wife unfortunately wasn't feeling great, so she skipped out. But on the 5th, we went and saw the Phantom Menace in theaters. We didn't have the whole marathon thing anyway. Around here where I was, Regal Cinema wasn't doing it. They just had the Phantom Menace, which is cool. I was glad to see the Phantom Menace back in theaters. We saw a decent enough crowd considering. I like to go on days when there's less crowd only because I just don't like people. I like to have my own space. I'm a big guy. I like my spread out. But getting my son and daughter together actually was very impressive because they don't do a whole lot together. They're both very like on their own thing. But they both came together for Star Wars, and it was a great time. It was a wonderful time seeing it on the big screen again. The big villain Darth Maul, the door opening on Darth Maul on the big screen. That whole fight sequence there, Maul versus Qui-Gon in the desert looked great. The pod racing sequence was great. My son was loving to see all that stuff on the big screen again. Now it's the second big screen Star Wars movie re-release that he has seen now. So that's because he saw Empire with me.
Did you have the extended part? Because the cinema that we went to, shout out to my drummer Sean, me and him went to see it in the big screen. Did you have the extended pod racing scene? Okay, so did we. Because that was the thing that me and him both, when we walked in, we were like, which version are they going with? Like, which pod racing scene are they going with here?
Right.
I gotta say, like, you taking your son and your daughter is so cool to me. Sean's son Phoenix is unfortunately a little too young to come with us yet. He's got a few years before he can come with us. But I saw a few little kids that were walking in. It was their first time seeing Star Wars on the big screen.
Right. Ooh,
and they were dressed like head to toe in Jedi gear.
Nice.
And I immediately just got flashbacks, and I was just like, these kids' minds are about to be fucking blown.
Absolutely. It was good to see it. People like who love it. They're coming back the second time. There's never going to be the people who didn't like it were going to go see it. It was the people who loved it. So you knew you were in for a fun time. People were very excitable, clapping along, having a great time. It was great. It was really a lot of fun. I will say, I did say, I know you didn't. I did say for the Acolyte scene, everything else. I did clear this with him. I cleared this with Matty first. I figured this was an interesting. I basically told him what it was because it wasn't a whole lot to really break down. It's not a story to break down. It's basically just a full scene of what was in the trailer, the fight between Trinity. I'm always going to call her Trinity no matter what. I know her name is Indara, but Trinity and May it was in the trailer, both trailers. But this is just basically the full sequence of that, and it was just all I'm going to say about it. Because I'm not going to spoil anything further. Is that it was a great fight sequence, great choreography.
Of course, Carrie-Anne Moss
looked genuine. Exactly, Carrie-Anne Moss. It looked good. If like anybody had any questions about, there was some talk with the Acolyte trailer having some, volume looking shots, even though it wasn't the volume. And I understood some of it looked a little clean. But this was very
on location. What the fuck are they talking about?
No, I don't. I get what I'm gonna say. Like having watched the trailer, you didn't. I understand what they're saying. There was some shots that looked really clean for some reason. And maybe it's just the trailer, maybe it's just the way they presented it. Maybe it wasn't.
That's cool. Yet. Good cinematography, guys.
But this was actually really felt like Star Wars lived in, and like the sequence, the setting that was in was really good. So I'm really looking forward to it now. We haven't had fights like this in Star Wars in a while, so it's really cool to see. So that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say anything further. There's nothing else to spoil about it. But if you saw it, you know what I mean. If you didn't, you're gonna find out pretty soon enough. So I'm pretty sure this is probably from the first episode or two. I'm gonna bet the first episode. Yeah. So all right. Other than that,
I've had the word Star Wars, Star, and Wars since you mentioned to mute everything. Do you know how much nicer my Twitter timeline has been?
I'm sure. I'm quite sure.
I mean, now I just get Metal Gear Solid discourse, which is equally as toxic, but.
I always wondered. One last aside before you get into Tales of the Empire. If because I tend not to block people generally. I kind of just tend to scroll by.
I'm heavy with the block hammer.
I can just scroll by unless you're like I don't know. It takes a lot for me to block you because I usually don't want to bother. I usually just scroll by, whatever. I don't really care about you. But I wonder, like, if we block everything, are we fooling ourselves and thinking just not as much toxicity there? I almost feel like I have to see it to be like, okay, I remind myself, yes, this is still out there.
Here's there's the mute button, which I'm also a big proponent of. The mute button.
Yeah.
And also the mute this conversation button.
That's a good one to do.
I found out that is a thing because like I would just tweet and run. I would tweet. This was like back in the day.
Right.
I would tweet something that would now be considered fairly problematic. Nothing too bad, but like something that people might look at me a bit like, "Hey man, we get your cracking jokes, but that's a bit too far." And then I would just like hit the mute this conversation.
Get out of there. All right, that's
Yep.
fair. That's fair. Now you want me to go? You have me want to go see your search your tweets there. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, good luck. I deleted them all.
Oh, right off.
Well, until I deleted them from the start of this year.
Okay, that's fair.
Good luck.
All right. The other thing we did this weekend, of course, watched Tales of the Empire. Tales of the Empire, a set of 6 short episodes, much like Tales of the Jedi. Also, much like Tales of the Jedi, we had 3 basic arcs, and they were kind of thematically tied in some ways. And what I found also, just a quick overall statement, and from what I've seen, I feel like these are episodes that aren't made to be like. I think like every time Star Wars fans look for like tech moments, tech dying moments, or like Luke Skywalker moments, everything has to have like an epic, big moment, or else it's not successful. And
I think we got one.
I don't think these episodes are meant to do that as much as they are meant to fill in some blanks, fill in some spots, give you some little bit of flourishing, a little bit of frosting for the cake, if you will. But in a good way. I don't think they're. I'm not saying they're not about. They have substance. They're not without substance at all. But there's not usually a whole big, powerful moment. I think people get underwhelmed about that. I think that's more on the audience than it is on the storytellers. These are like you like to say. You are like to say these are kind of campfire tales, and these are nice kind of entries, and we get some background. I tell you what, I care more about Morgan Elsbeth now. And even though I prefer the Barasafi arcs, I'll put that out there right away. I prefer the Barasafi arc. I'll
put it out there right away that I am the opposite.
Oh, interesting. What an interesting conversation this could be. Okay, I actually do like that impressively. There's another reason about where I'm kind of curious why, but we'll get there. But I do have some theories on why some people might not like the Barasafi arc, and I had to get over it a little bit, but when I did, I loved it. But we'll get into the overalls for sure. We always like to break things down in segments. That's what we do in all of our shows. It's a little harder to do in this, but Matty made a good point. We can do a segment for. We can just do by segment for each arc instead of doing instead of each individual 6 episodes. We'll just do the arc, the Morgan arc, and the Barris arc. And I'll tell you right now that I decided to take out the Laugh It Up fuzzball for this this week. Because quite frankly, I don't remember a single thing that made me laugh. It's not a bad thing, but I can't remember a single thing that made me laugh.
I have one.
Okay.
I'm just going to say it now.
Put it out. We're gonna do
the way Vader sits down, like he's like hoisting up his pants, like the way he's like, the way he's like sitting, he's like the disappointed dad that's like getting ready to take the belt off. The beating's coming, and he's just like sitting there like, oh, there you go. Like he's just gonna work his way into the chair. And his pants are a bit too like loose.
Right.
Like his belt doesn't tighten all the way around anymore. So like he's like holding onto the belt. Right. I did find that kind of funny.
So we need a Darth Vader with suspenders is what you're saying at this point? To be he held everything up.
I'm saying Darth Vader needs to go to Weight Watchers.
I'll see you there, Darth. I will say that Darth Vader was. I can understand why some people might be a little upset that that's all we got from Vader on a couple levels in terms of like he's in the trailer and pretty much everything that he is in the episode of is in the trailer. Like that's it. But by putting him in the trailer like that, it's almost like you're saying, here's Vader going to be in this. And it would make sense that Vader was in it. It would make sense. So automatically people kind of assumed that Barris and Vader were going to have this big interaction or big kind of turnabout. And that doesn't happen. Exactly. We have Vader walking in, the Inquisitor kneeling down, him sitting on the throne. That's it. That's all we got. So I will say that was a little bit of a disappointment for me.
Walks in, adjusts his pants, sits down, and then that's that.
That's it. And it's not like I needed that to happen, but when you put it in the trailer like that, it does kind of be like a little bit of click. It's like a clickbait kind of thing for me in a way. I got over it real quick. I didn't need Vader in here, and if you didn't have him in that at all, it'd be fine. It was a nice addition. Kind of made sense. That little sequence was good. But I wouldn't have put him in the trailer myself. That would have been a nice surprise. I got to just throw in there. But I guess they're looking for views, just like anybody else looking for clicks. But Disney Plus looking for clicks.
Are you saying that Lucasfilm and rage baiting?
Not well. You're using Vader, so maybe that's exactly what it is. Vader is the king of rage, really. So at that point, so rage baiting indeed. But let's start going through our segments. The first one, the easiest one, and the sad one.
Who wants to see us? Talk to me.
I didn't think you were that in this episode.
This effort is no longer profitable.
I thought
Always,
we were
Matty.
omitting it from this episode.
Always, Matty. Until we see him. Hondo Watch continues until we see him, and then even beyond that, we'll just reset the clock probably. I held out. I didn't hold out. I didn't really think he was going to be, but I figure like there's a lot you can do in these things. So you could have had him transporting Morgan around. You could have had him transporting Barris or some point. I don't know. We could have. We didn't know the stories were necessarily going to be. Who maybe Morgan was
You're just asking for disappointment.
Megan Porter was a pirate at one point. We don't know. Maybe Barris turned pirate after she left. We don't know. There was a possibility. So
she didn't turn into a pirate. She turned into an inquisitor. That was the story.
Well, we didn't know exactly when. We didn't know. Maybe she needed pirates to travel her around. They don't. Maybe the Empire doesn't offer a good dental plan. They have to go to the different. I don't know. Maybe they do something else on the side. Who knows?
Do you think Hondo's really like Marek is really Hondo under the mask? Is that what you were hoping?
I was absolutely. I was hoping that. You never know. You never know. He always appears when you least expect it, obviously. But I didn't think he was going to be. But I held out this little minor, maybe.
I'm telling you, man. Hondo is the Where's Waldo book without the Waldo.
We're never gonna get to that. We're never. He's the edgelord. We're never gonna be able to finish our mission here. All right. Next up, we will jump into our actual first segment now.
I was hoping for the whole squad, but you do.
The batch, I didn't make up a whole new thing for Tales of the Empire. I'm a little lazy. Whatever.
Can I ask you a quick question about the intro?
Sure.
Were you expecting the dun from the Bad Batch?
I did.
I was.
I totally was. My son was. We were thinking about. We're like, I'm like doing the drums even though it's not there anymore. I was like, damn.
I was waiting for it. It didn't come.
It made me sad. It made me a little sad. Not gonna lie. I was kind of hoping for it, but anyway, the character of the week. We shouldn't say Bachelor of the week, I guess. Character of the week from both arcs. It's kind of, I don't know. I'll let you go first. I'm wondering if you're going to be what you would think they would be, or are you going to go off on your own?
So
from the first arc, the Morgan arc.
From the Morgan arc, I'm going to go with Captain Pelion.
I did like seeing him. Voiced by Xander Berkery. So that's a kind of a good character actor there, and he's someone who could definitely play him in live action. So I wonder if this is a case of something, because he was Xander Berkery that in Mandalorian? I can't remember now.
I'm pretty sure he was.
That's right. So I remember he appeared in
Mandalorian, the Shadow Council.
Right. Okay. So you didn't really realize that until just now. I knew he was there. I forgot that he was. I was like, oh well, maybe Xander Berkery could play. Could play.
I saw a lot of people that were like, "Oh, it's cool to see Wolf Yularen show up."
Oh.
I was like, "That's not Wolf Yularen. I know the mustache and I know the voice of Wolf Yularen from 10 clicks away."
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was an idiot. I've totally blanked it out of my mind. Xander Berkery actually already played the character, so it makes sense. He voices the character. Either way, I'm always happy that he's in Star Wars.
Run a trivia league.
I know, my God. I am well out of practice for that. I'll tell you that, my friend.
We are retired.
I'm retired. Actually, that's this. I'm retired. I'm also getting older. That's why I'm retired. I don't have the skills I used to have. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I kind of interrupted you. So talk about Pelion. I'm glad to see that too, though.
Yeah, because you had this scene where and I thought this was really cool that it was Morgan's idea for the advanced TIE fighter.
Yeah.
That was a nice little, because watching Rebels, we always thought that was Thrawn's design.
Right.
That was Thrawn's idea, but it wasn't. He got it from Morgan Elsbeth.
Which definitely is a great way to bump up her credibility, right? It's a good storytelling thing to do. I know I saw somebody being upset about that. Like, well, it's supposed to be Thrawn. Now they're retconning it to Morgan. I'm like, well, they never said it was Thrawn's real design. He was just, he was championing it, much like Tarkin was championing other things, championing Stardust eventually.
I mean, they did retcon it. What does retcon? This is the whole thing with people not understanding the meaning of what retcon is. Retcon is adding additional information onto what we already have.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. They did retcon it.
It doesn't negate it at all. It negate it at all. It's not like they changed their mind. I mean, who knows? And maybe they
woke
did.
and retcon are two words that people need to really learn the true meaning of.
Right. Yeah. I think that sometimes some things we get more clarification on. And if you're upset about that, I'm sorry, then go out and touch grass, because to be completely honest, it doesn't change anything really big. Okay, so Thrawn doesn't have the genius idea for the TIE Defender. He just is a genius for realizing that's a good idea and championing it. That's still Thrawn being a genius either way, being smart about what he's doing.
Yeah. And the reason I picked Pelion is because, like, out of all the rooms, especially, we didn't get a name for that other Imperial, did we? The really snidey prick one. I don't think I saw a name for him.
We did. It was like innate or innate, or I'll find it for you. Go. You keep talking. I'll find it.
That dick. He came in and he was just like, this is very interesting. Like, we can, I know someone that would, like these designs. And then you have the moment when Ruch, again, cool to see Ruch. That was awesome. Comes in and he just shows what a badass he is, because he just walks in and he's just like, Ruch, that'll be all.
Yep. Dane. Dane is the name of the Imperial.
Dane.
Yeah.
Okay. Dane, you're a dick.
Stupid motherfucker. No, I agree. I think it's actually a great, Easter egg. Not Easter egg's the wrong word for it, but obviously in the original Thrawn trilogy, Pelion was his main man. He was there the entire time. And ever since he's been in the new canon, Pelion's been kind of like not there at all until that Shadow Council moment. So it's good to see Pelion there, kind of reuniting, get the band back together as it should be, so to speak. And I'm hoping that does lead to stuff in the future, and we get Pelion in closer with Thrawn when he gets, now that Thrawn's back from the galaxy that's far, far, far away instead of just far, far away. Hopefully they're get back together in that. So I did like to see that too. I think it's a nice way to kind of like lead that story together, get those two together. He's always a great character. He's one of the better EU characters. His arc is pretty cool there. But yeah, I like that's a good choice.
And people say Filoni doesn't read the EU.
He knows it. He definitely knows it. For me, I'm gonna go with his master. I'm gonna go with Thrawn. He's only in the one episode, so not. But seeing Thrawn in this animation style,
he looked awesome.
He looked so good, and he was acting so much like Thrawn. He just felt more. He felt more like Thrawn in this one than he did in Ahsoka. To be honest with you, it just felt like really like in deep. This is the Thrawn I really want to see. That just genius, focused, doing his thing, bringing Morgan Elsbeth in, collecting pieces of important pieces of like people he can use in the right way to create a very strategic empire for him. I loved everything he did in the brief amount of time. I did want to say, I want to give it a little shout out again, because since Thrawn was only in the one episode, I want to give a shout out to the mother character from the first one. The Singing Mountain Clan, or whatever it was. She was really kind of a cool character as well. Only that she was good, but she wasn't very forgiving as well. So it's definitely kind of an interesting thing. The whole thing about Tales of the Empire, we had a lot of characters that they went ways we either haven't seen them go before, or kind of went a little like left when they usually go right, kind of thing. It was kind of cool to see though. And this was one of them.
It gave another like take on the witches of Dathomir as well. Of like, her magic was very like bright white light. She's very into like staying out of the affairs of what the other clans were doing, and like keeping her clan protected. And it kind of gave another twist on the witches of Dathomir, which that was a sick line from Thrawn when he just walked in and he said, "History remembers the witches of Dathomir." I was like, say that again. Just say that again. That
absolutely.
I fully back what you're saying with Thrawn. This was like a top Thrawn moment for me, because especially like when he asked her the question again, he's just like, "Why do you seek imperial favor?"
Yes.
And he's like talking about ambition,
right?
Because that lends into that. He made a deal with the devil for a reason, but he's got his own Something's ticking in there that like we don't know about.
He wants more of people like him, and that's right. And it's the way to do it. So I love that aspect of it. Absolutely. So, all right, let's move on to our next segment.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.
Best lines of the week for both arcs. I'll go with the first one there. Oh wait, we didn't do our favorite character of the week for the other arc, did we?
Nah, let's do that.
Go back and rewind it. Pretend you guys didn't see that. Going back, the favorite character of the week for the other arc, for the Varys arc. I'll go with this one since I did the first one. I'm going to be obvious. I'm a little bit here. But it was Varys. I mean, Varys' arc was very powerful to me. I thought it worked very well. I thought it was. I should say it worked very well the more I thought about it and accepted it a little bit. I want to save some of this conversation for the mission briefing in a way. But especially by that third episode, seeing her in that kind of mother healer role where she was aged out a little bit, don't know exactly when it's going on, but she became like, it's kind of like what I meant about the mother character, the first arc. She kind of had this, you don't really see that very much. When she does get redeemed, she doesn't just go back to becoming a Jedi despite her, her cool line. She goes off to a different, or because she does actually become a Jedi, but a different kind of Jedi than we're used to. She's not going gallivanting around the galaxy. She's not adventuring. She's not doing anything. She just becomes this healer, which is a very powerful thing. What I'd like to see more explored of, to be honest with you. So I like what a very great performance by Meredith Salinger. I love what she did, and I thought it was great. I thought she was great.
Did you ever read the books that came out about the Clone Wars?
Which ones?
There was like a whole and not like an anthology series. There was like a whole. I remember when I was a kid, they came out. It was like right after. I think this was before, like everything that got separated into like EU and canon and everything. I remember, and I want to say it was Andres Cabrera that pointed this out, and I have this book still. It was the second book of the MedStar.
Oh, MedStar. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The title is The Healer.
Yes. Yep.
And the cover is Barriss healing a clone trooper.
Yes, indeedy.
So I was just like, this. I think it was either Barriss or Luminara on the cover. Either way, completely related.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I have it here now.
I thought that was a really cool little touch of like they've gone back and like looked into the EU again. They're looking into the EU. And like what can we pull off of the character of Barriss from before?
Absolutely. They're doing that more and more. Here, I'm going to share this real quick. That's the one you're talking about right there.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep, I've read that as well. Good stuff. Yeah, no, it's a great thing. I think they kind of look back into it. It makes sense. I think that like when people, again, I've said this a million times. I don't want to get too far into it. When they announced that they were, wiping out the EU or whatever to have their own new canon, that made sense at the time, but it wasn't like they were totally destroying it. It's still there for everybody to read. And quite frankly, almost everything that they've done in canon, they usually kind of check and see, and they might take a lot of cool things from it. They just kind of avoid the shit. And let's face it, there is a lot with that much writing and that much media, there's going to be some shit in there. There's something that I don't want to have canon. So you got to create your own canon, let it go. But they're going to take some cool things. So I bet you they would think, oh, Barriss is a healer. Let's kind of make her a healer now. That makes sense. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great little juxtaposition there. So what about you? Who's your favorite character of this arc?
Mine is also kind of a basic bitch answer for me. It's the Grand Inquisitor.
Fair. Absolutely.
How sick was it having Jason Isaacs in to do the voice?
It's always good to have Jason Isaacs back. Oh, such a good dude. So good. And seeing him in this animation is like Thrawn was it was really cool to see him in this kind of animation.
Yeah.
All right.
And just like the way he composed himself, that like, because I feel like a lot of people from Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of walked away of like, oh, he's actually a little bit of a bitch.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
I don't get why he's still the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah.
But like in this arc especially, he like really asserted himself as like, no, I'm him. Like, remember this. I am him.
I think it has to do with the fact that like Reva kept like going off Rogan, like when she hurt him or whatever. He seemed more mortal. Not mortal is the wrong word, but he seemed less like in this arc here and like in Rebels, he seemed like the man, the dude kind of thing. I think that might have something to do with it in a way. It doesn't mean he was a bitch because Reva's storyline was such a different storyline to begin with. But I do think I agree with you in the fact of that it was a spot on moment for him. Spot on for him to show up there. So I really, really enjoyed that for quite a bit. For sure.
The moment where he just throws the lightsaber down onto the pit and he's just like, there you go. One of you's going to die. Let's see which one it is. Let's
see what happens. So good. So good. I really did love that. So it's a good choice. Good choice. I thought you were going to go with Lynn, to be honest with you, which is I thought you were going to be the dark side version in a way. And I did like her as well. I thought she had a kind of a
great,
interesting, cool little arc there. So this arc was overall just very damn good. That's all you got to say, really, quite honestly. So, all right. Let's now move to I Spec. I'm not going to do the thing again. Favorite lines of dialogue. I'll start this one from the first arc. It was the mother's line after she did the whole whiteout thing with the big power blast there. You must not assume just because someone does not want to fight that they are not capable. Is it a little bit of a cliche line? The kind of thing something you've heard before? Sure. But she delivered it very well. Like she kind of had that badass moment. You're like, oh, this is who you are. You are pretty damn powerful. I want to see more of you now. Let's see what else you can do. I think we're going to need to hear that too. I think we're going to need to hear that in a way for Wesso, because she is not always one to fight necessarily. She does a lot of other stuff in between afterwards, but she still fights in her own way. And she can kick ass too. We see that quite a few times as well. I think it's a perfect Star Wars line. It almost feels like a Yoda line if it was done in different syntax. But I really enjoyed that one. What about you from the first arc?
From the first arc? I would probably say it's one word, but it's when Thrawn asks Morgan, he says, so tell me, I'll ask you again, why do you seek Imperial favor? And she just responds with revenge.
Yes.
Because that also goes into the moment at the end of Ahsoka where Thrawn says, for the Empire, for the glory of the Empire.
Right.
And she goes, for Dathomir.
Nice.
That to me, as soon as I heard her say that, I was like, she's playing a long con. She knows exactly what she's doing.
Absolutely. I almost wish she hadn't died in Ahsoka. I wish I kind of feel like I want to see more from her in a way now.
I might do. It's Night Sisters, bro.
I'm sure Night Sisters could bring her back potentially. We don't know. And I will say, like this is why I think that first arc did its job, because even throughout Ahsoka, when I watched her the Mandalorian episode of the Jedi and her Ahsoka stuff, I was like, okay, she's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Like, it wasn't like I was like, oh, I need to see more. That's why when they announced her here, I'm like, oh, I have to see this arc. And I'm just kind of like, okay, all right, let's see. But after watching the arc, I am liking her a little more. I'm interested to see a little bit more from her now. So he did his job. As Dave tends to do. Interesting enough, by the way, speaking of Dave Filoni, before I move on to mine, next part there, Dave is going to George route now. It seemed like it was a story by Dave Filoni written by somebody else in a way. So Dave kind of spreading himself out a little bit, maybe just kind of, here's my idea, go write it out kind of thing. Interesting to see how that goes for the future in a way. But I think I'm all for it. I'm okay with it. As long as we get story ideas by Filoni. So we'll find out. All right. So next arc then, my favorite line from the Barriss arc was definitely Barriss's. I love the fact that this whole thing was like poetry. It rhymes, mirrors of the entire thing. And she says to the fourth sister in the final episode, it seems fear is not your ally, but your master. Oh, that was good. Because the whole time she threw, like she went, because the whole arc we're going to talk about as we get into our mission briefing a little bit, was how she went down one direction, came back up a little bit, and was learning throughout, and she's learning that basically everything she was being taught by the Grand Inquisitor was wrong, and fear wasn't her ally. But the fourth sister, Lynn, had bought into it completely and was that way. The fact is now when she's gotten to where she's going to be, It seems fear is not your ally, but your master. It was such a great like Jedi master kind of moment for Barriss. I mean, that you never thought she would get, especially after her issues, after her turning on the Jedi back in the day. But it was very. I kind of fist pumped at that moment a little bit. That was a nice little line. So, what about yourself?
It's a tough one. Because it was definitely the more philosophical of the two. We got some really good. I thought it was for the points it's going against points that I'm gonna raise later.
Okay.
But the moment when Barriss says there's still one more Jedi for you to deal with then, and then kicks her off the cliff, I was like, that's a cool, like, badass moment.
That's a WWE like babyface turn, basically.
Yeah, that's her face turn.
Yeah, love that as well. I get what you're saying though. I totally like your hesitance about it because I have the same hesitance to a degree. Although I think it works itself out by the end, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, then we get into our next segment. Put that in your holocron and snoke it.
Do you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
This is where we like to explore more lore, take a look and see what something happened in this arc that we want to see more of, dive deeper into. And this was an easier one to do. Sometimes the Bad Batch episodes didn't have a lot of lore to go dive into. There's a lot of lore, a lot of time jumps here. So you guys kind of go, well, I want to see what happened here. What happened here. So yeah, I think for this episode, the first arc I want to talk about is at the end of the arc, the third episode, when I think it was Neruda, Republic ambassador, or whatever, is killed, and she's talking to somebody, right? She's trying to set out a signal, and she and Morgan crushes it, destroys it, says no one is coming. Now, I didn't know at first who it was. I didn't have my subtitles on, but it's kind of spoiled a little bit when you have subtitles.
Oh, it's literally 2 seconds later in the end credits.
That's exactly right too. But I didn't see the end credits at that point. I turned around, whatever it was. But I went back, and then I listened to it again after I knew, and I'm like, yeah, it sounds just like her. This is exactly what it is. It's Bo-Katan. But a lot of people assume that she was talking to Ahsoka. I saw a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, is this Rosario Dawson's first voiceover for Ahsoka? Is that what that is?" And I'm like, no, it's not. It didn't sound like Ahsoka. But the fact that it's Bo-Katan is still pretty interesting on a couple of levels. Obviously, we know Bo-Katan and Ahsoka are in cahoots a little bit in tandem because Bo-Katan tells Din, "Hey, Ahsoka's on Corvus." So that's where we get to that in a way. But if Neruda's a New Republic ambassador, why is she calling out for Bo-Katan? Or did she just kind of call out a general signal and Bo-Katan picked it up? Kind of an interesting thing. But I kind of want to see, what is Bo-Katan's relationship with the Ahsoka? What is their relationship with the Republic at this time? Because we never really found out what that relationship is like. Obviously, Ahsoka must have ties to the New Republic. She has ties with Hera. She has ties, I think she'd have ties with Leia by that point, but we don't know. Or ties with Luke, because at some point Ahsoka has met Luke. I don't know. It's interesting to see, because we know that when Ahsoka meets Luke or whatever later on, they have already met. Already had a conversation at some point. So I'm interested to see. I want to see where the conversation goes.
I would think that it's a case of Bo-Katan picked up the signal, did a little bit of recon, found out who it was, what they were there for, and then said to Ahsoka, "Hey, you're tracking down Thrawn. Here's a good lead.
Right.
Go get her."
Right. Absolutely. That could be. That could be a good case. It could be a good case. So, all right. How about you for that arc?
For Morgan's arc, here's the thing, and this might seem quite broy of me, but fuck it. This is our show. I'm one half of the show.
This is your part of the show. Absolutely.
We've got so many Night Sisters. Where are my Night Brothers? Where are the Zabraks? What happened to them?
It's been a while. How's it been? We haven't seen them in a while.
Since Savage. Yeah. Like, we haven't seen a new, like, Zabrak Night Brother character. Like, where... I think we're meant to be getting one in the Acolyte. I think there's supposed to be a Zabrak Jedi.
Okay.
But, you know, they were on Dathomir too.
Gotcha.
They wouldn't have gone down without a fight. So what the hell happened to them?
That's a great question. I mean, I actually always wondered that even before, like when Grievous slaughtered the Night Sisters. Like, Night Brothers they're obviously a different part of Dathomir, so, but they didn't come to fight. Were they? So they just get cut off? Are they on their own now? That's a great question. I would love to see what happens with that.
Because in Jedi Fallen Order, they're still on Dathomir.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what happened?
That's a good question. That's a great question. Great question. All right. Fair enough. All right, let's move on to the other arc then, for the Barriss arc. For me, I will tell you it is an easy one. I just want to know, I want more of what happened between Barriss and between episodes 2 and 3. After she leaves and becomes the healer, she obviously touches base with, a lot of people are assuming she's talking about Ahsoka, but they don't say Ahsoka, so I never want to say for sure that it is. Like, they had the one where
you gotta imagine it being an old friend.
You got to figure it's the case. It could be, there's a lot of people out there that could be old friends in a way. I mean, it could be Asajj Ventress, if Asajj Ventress and the Hidden Path stories are possibly true. You know what I mean? But either way, I want to see who the old friend is and how they connected up. And is Barriss now part of the path? Is this kind of a part of the path in a way to the cave? I need to know. Of course, I think we are going to know. I kind of feel like a little bit like I was listening to obviously Force Center and Jennifer, Ken, and Joseph always break down. I haven't listened to the whole episode yet. Tales of got through some of it, but I think it was Ken who said it. And other people agreed that the Barriss arc specifically acted a little like, if you want to look at it a little cynically, it looked like, okay, here's a preview of what's coming. Like, everybody thinks that a path episode kind of like this is a little bit like, okay, here's a teaser of what's happening at the end. We're going to see more about the path after this kind of thing. And not that it meant a bad thing to the episode. It still was a great arc or everything else, but definitely seemed like it was more, you could see into it a little bit more, so to speak. And I kind of see it too. I kind of feel like a lot of this is leading to something else. And that's okay. I don't mind having this. In some ways, I like having a standalone arc, and I get that too. I know Jennifer was saying she liked that, but she almost wanted Barriss to have passed away at the end because like it'd be a nice way to have like it's a standalone story in a way. Here's what happened to Barriss after we left her. This is it. She's done. But at the same time, I don't mind that it connects too. So I love my connectivity as always. So
I think there is something coming down the line, because I've been seeing it a little bit over this week. I saw Ghost from Triad of the Force, Star Wars Sessions tweet about it as well. Trying to think, there's been a few people. Those were the two that I saw first. The tweet that they got an email, and it was like one of the coolest emails that they've ever received. So like, I'm wondering if that path show is the thing that's currently in the works.
Right.
It could also be a case of like, before the rebellion became a thing, you had all these different cells, right?
Right.
So maybe at the minute it's just different cells of people that are aware of what's going on with the M count, and they're all like trying to chip in before they form the path.
Right. Absolutely could be the case.
So you got like Asajj over here helping, you got Barriss over here helping, you got Ahsoka over here helping, and then they decide, let's fucking form an LLC. And
fair enough. All right. Well, what is your favorite or your more lore that you want to explore from this arc?
From the Barriss arc. I want to know who else the Inquisitors tried to recruit, because they're flying into Fortress Inquisitoris, and it's still being built.
Right. Which is a great aspect to it. I love that.
Dude, I thought that was so cool. And you know what? I'm changing it. What the hell did they build it on?
Your thoughts echo some of mine. Yeah, I like that. I mean, kind of like it's probably inspired by the fact that we know the Jedi Temple was built over Sith ruins on the on Coruscant. What did they do?
Vader's castle was built on top of something, but because like you're looking like the cavern, the pit that they were fighting in.
Right.
That's like a natural structure that it seems like they've built around.
Right. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Mustafa's like only a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Right.
So
100%.
I wonder
100%.
what did they build it around?
Good question. I don't know. It could be something Sith related. It could be something completely different. It'd be actually fun if, like, to me, it'd be kind of fun if we just like backwards of the Jedi Temple. Like they start building the Fortress Fortress Inquisitorius. I could never say that. But they built that on top of like a Jedi Temple ruined kind of thing in a way. Kind of like, we're going to corrupt this and make this ours, that kind of thing. It'd be a very Sith-like thing to do. It's like put down the Jedi Order and build something in their ruins. And it makes sense of the timeline for sure. So yeah, I'd like to see more about that as well. Good call. Very good call. So all right, next up on our list there, seen a lot of action.
Hear a lot of carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
Favorite bits of action from the arcs. I'll let you go first, my friend, with your first arc, the Morgan arc. Favorite bit of action.
I loved, I'm just going to say it, Grievous. Just like almost being like Mike Myers.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes.
Sorry, Michael Myers, not Mike Myers. Like, he's essentially like, when you like hear the laugh, when she's like slowly passing out and you can hear his laugh, you're kind of like, where is he? Like, which way is he going to come from? And like, you're looking around, and that it was like a horror film, dude. He was like Michael Myers.
Yeah, absolutely was. 100% was. I gotta say that was actually additionally my choice too. I'm gonna pick something else just because you picked that one. But first of all, the animation there is great. Animation is beautiful. I've never seen Grievous look so good, and like
him saying "wipe them out," all of them as well.
That's a very Star Wars thing to do. I like how they quote lines like that of each other. It makes me always make me smile. Like poetry, it rhymes. Sometimes it's outright plagiarism, but it's okay. I'm all here for it. I do want to know real quick in a place I didn't get a chance to do before I forget about it. The animation was so fucking good. Like when Morgan reaches out in the sand, down like the sand, eating each grain of sand was like, it was so, like, holy shit, this is
that is so realistic with this animation.
But yeah, but back to Grievous. I love the fact we're so used to seeing Grievous and the droids be kind of a laughing case when it comes to the Clone Wars, because we always see them going up against Jedi go through these droids like nothing for the most part, and Grievous usually gets beaten. This actually harkened back to the micro series there, the Tartakovsky Grievous.
Great comparison.
Because he was monsters. Him and the droids both were scary as hell, and it's good to see it from that aspect. The laugh, exactly.
The Tartakovsky series where they're underneath the clone gunship, right? All they can hear is the laugh because they don't know where he's going to come from, and he comes through the ceiling.
Yes, horror slasher mode. And when you're not facing a Jedi case, like Morgan and the Night Sisters are not Jedi. They're not real Force users. Except they have some magic at the top of the line, but the grunts they're pretty mortal. So this is very scary to them. These are the ones they can be wiped out by groups pretty handily, and they are. But it's a great job of making that scary again, which I loved. So I did like that too. But in order to give us a second one from mine, I'll go with my second one was Morgan versus Rook on top of
that was pretty cool.
On top of the parapet there, under Peleon and Thrawn's watchful eye. Great fight. I love seeing Rook in action again. Silent as he was for the most part, but Morgan showed that she definitely belongs and definitely can handle herself, as we knew she could. I mean, she fought Ahsoka almost to a standstill despite her.
Honestly, Rook get a win. We've only ever seen him get his ass kicked.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Give Rook a win.
Kind of like with Grievous, we've only seen people like either beat Grievous or run away from Grievous.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Let's give Rook a win. Let's figure out.
Let's give him a W. Right now he's 0-2. We need to make him 1 and 2 at least.
At least there you go. All right, what about the other arc there, the Barriss arc?
It's gotta be Barriss versus the Grand Inquisitor.
Very cool.
He just throws her the lightsaber and is like, I don't need one.
Come at me, bro.
And she's swinging at him, and then he says, "You fight like a Jedi. It makes you predictable." And he's just like dancing out of the way. And then she cuts like his shoulder plate, and he goes, "Now you're fighting with your anger. Now I feel your anger." And I'm just like, yes. Yeah. And then he just ridge hands her in the face. And you see the blood come from her nose. And like, I think it was you that said it. like we never really see like blood
Right. Yeah.
in animated in any Star Wars. So I was just kind of like, whoa.
Ooh. Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. And I love the fact that it mirrors later on when she's fighting with Lynn in the third episode where she basically becomes the Inquisitor, but doing it the other way. And she's like, I don't remember her exact line, but it's like kind of like you're fighting and making you obvious and kind of thing. And she's just bopping around like the other tomorrow at that point. But that's not my favorite. My favorite one is a little bit of not. I get it's definitely action, but it's definitely more of a horror action. Is when Lynn slaughters the village. After Barris takes off her mask, talks to the little boy, and the boy tells him that the Jedi's up in the mountains, and he's like, "Okay, we got it. Let's go." And Barris suspects to just kind of go, and Lynn's like,
wipes the entrance shut. Oh,
that was the best part about it. Everything gets killed, and then like the boy goes to Barris, they asking for protection. Basically, he's hugging her, and Barris like, "Oh God," and like Lynn does it with her hand, and Barris is like, "Oh fuck, don't." And it's just opening the doors. Like, you think she's going for the kid, but she's not. She's opening the doors, and Barris like kind of like backs off in a way. Oh, slasher moment for sure, and great on to see Barris is like finally going, damn, this is not what I signed up for. This is, I thought the Jedi were bad, but this was actually worse.
And I saw a lot of people that were saying that like that was a moment of good for Lynn, that like she was leaving the child alone. She's like, no, she left the child alone so the child would run and tell other people what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like that wasn't she wasn't being nice. She wasn't saving the kid. She was saying, go on, run, little boy. Go tell the next village about the horrors you just saw. Because we're coming for them next.
What it means to deny the Inquisitors. Exactly. Exactly. It was a powerful moment. So, yeah. All right. Next up, we're going to do a little bit of mission briefing.
What do you need, Rex? Any chance I could use you for a mission?
And I got to come up with new things now for the Acolyte. Been doing
tales of the podcast.
I'll do that too. So basically, we already talked about a lot of it. So we'll talk about the overall stuff now as we get into the end and wrap things up a little bit. So basically, for me, I'll talk from the beginning. Like I said, it's three. Each arc basically have thematic similarities about the Empire breaking you down and you trying to. How do you react to that? And do you go? Does it make you darker? Does it make you commit even to more evil acts, or does it finally break you to the point where you have to respond in a different way and go react against the Empire? And Morgan made one choice, Barris eventually makes the other. I think Morgan's side wasn't anything revolutionary or or we didn't get any revelations from Morgan's side, but it was just good to kind of flesh out that background and see her moment with Thrawn, where she gets together with Thrawn, to see her initial moment of Grievous destroying her and getting her people, I should say. And we get to see it's obviously 3 episodes, Grievous destroying the people, her with Thrawn and Pelion after getting shot down by the Empire, like in a typical snotty, sexist kind of way. The third episode when New Republic comes in, and Morgan, who's actually appears like she's really trying to do good for the people, and it looks like she's actually done very well for the village there. Before the Empire shoots her down, it looks like it was a village that she's built up into some kind of commercial village. She's definitely a successful village. And then what happens? Like they actually start turning on her really quick after the Empire shoots her down, and she's like, "I'm doing this for you. I did everything for you, and now you're still fucking with me."
I kind of sympathized with her actually, because there was she was helping them. She was trying to bring this, these jobs and everything to. Granted, it was jobs from the Empire, so we can't give her, total leniency. But still, she was trying to rebuild this backwater world that had nothing, that was probably good for nothing other than being harvested like the Empire wanted. And they essentially said, no, you said you do this, and you didn't do what we wanted you to do, so we're going to take you out of power. It's just like, well, that's not really how it works.
Right. Exactly. You just hardened her and made her worse. That's what And yes, Wing, she just won.
Bro, that moment where where Wing even says, was like, oh, She just won.
She just
like,
won.
yeah, dipshit.
Yeah.
She's a witch.
Uh-huh.
What do you think was going to happen?
Right, exactly. But yeah, it made me care about her character more, made me inspire a little bit. And I like seeing these pieces fall into place and these pieces filled in. And but you watch her going, and you're like, you feel like you do feel for her, and you want her to make the right decision in time. You're kind of like, you got shit upon your entire life pretty much. So I can see why you're flipping out the other way. But she still has that fire in that for Dathomir, for like she knows what she's doing this for. And some people like would argue, like, I remember when you heard about her backstory, she's a Night Sister, and you're like, well, how is she working with the Empire, who basically wiped out her entire people? Oh yeah, because she has no other choice. That's the only way she's going to get her vengeance, is to go in on it. But yeah, I do like that. So that's pretty much the first arc. Going to the Barris arc now, that is the other side of the coin, so to speak. I love this arc mostly. I do have there's a little things I hesitate about.
You go with yours, I'll go with mine, because I also had a couple where I not that it bothered me, but I would have preferred if they'd have gone a certain way. So you go with yours first.
Okay. I got back into it. And by the end of it, I was sold, because the third episode really tied it all together for me. But it kind of reminded me, I don't think I've ever brought this up on air, because we never really talked about Rebels too much, like in depth. There's a part of Rebels that bothered me during back in the day. We get Hot Callus, as we go. Callus finally turned after a great episode with Zeb on the planet, on the when they were abandoned the planet, and that was like the start of his turn to the light side. He became Fulcrum, became the rebel, and like, that was a great moment. I love seeing Fulcrum, or I love seeing him become a rebel, and everything else. It was great, it was wonderful work. However, you want to talk retcon? There was a little bit of retconning going on there. So remember, he was talked about as the one who slaughtered Zeb's people. That was how he was pretty much introduced. He was this badass guy. He slaughtered Zeb's people. He was carrying around the staff of I forget what the staff was, what it's called, but it was the special Zeb's people staff or whatever. And they kind of made a retcon of it that he was all bluster and that he was actually scared and didn't want to do that thing, but because it happened, he kind of took ownership of it to ensure his place in the Empire, which was fine. Okay, I like that. All right, so you addressed it at least. But there's this time where in one of the very first episodes of Rebels, he gets knocked over the ledge and the stormtrooper like is hanging on him, and for no reason, for shits and giggles, he just kicks the stormtrooper off of him to send him to his death. It's like, that's not the actions of a good man. And if you want to, like, they kind of want to portray him after he turned as like a good man who was working for the Empire because that was the government at the time, and he thought he was doing right, he thought he was doing good, and eventually he saw that it wasn't. Yeah, but this first thing he did in the episode that we first meet him shows me, no, he's kind of a dick. He's kind of still an evil guy doing evil things like on typical Imperial would. So it's hard to completely retcon that, right? I got over it. It's a case of, okay, they definitely changed their mind throughout. Not everything's perfect. Not every story can be perfect. There's moments. I kind of felt a little bit of that during Barris's arc, because we didn't know what happened. This is the big story for a long time. What happened to Barriss Offee after? I mean, last time we see her, obviously she was in jail, and that's all we knew. A lot of people assumed she was going to be Inquisitor. I don't think there's ever any real proof of that potentially besides our assumptions. I think I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember anything. But I remember everybody assuming that was the case. So here we are. After the story's over, we meet Barriss, and she's still in jail, and we have to remember that she's in jail because she exploded a bunch of citizens in the Jedi Temple. She set up Ahsoka, her friend, and framed her to go. She was all up against the Jedi. And then even during this episode, she snaps the neck of the guy, and she does a lot of killing herself too. And all of a sudden, we're led to believe that she just is able. Suddenly, when Lynn starts slaughtering the innocents, it's like, well, you did that. So now you're seeing this done. You can't do that. So now you're a good guy. So it kind of taints that to me. Like, how could that turn kind of is a little bit tainted? I never expected her to come back to the good side, and I think they pushed it a little far. I think they pushed it a little quickly in a way in these 50-minute episodes, because you can't have her having done one thing and then maybe seeing it up close after, like, she's like, oh, I got what I wanted. The Jedi are no more, and we were going to really do things good. And then she realizes that the Empire is even worse than the Jedi were. I get that's a way towards good. So I struggled with that a little bit. I'm not going to lie, during the first and second episodes. But then, and this might be hypocritical of me, I loved what they did with her in the third episode. I love that she's not gallivanting around being even though she called herself a Jedi at the end of the second one. We introduced her kind of as a new character. It's a unique thing. We don't really see the healers out there, or maybe she's just done with the government side of things, done with the whole, pretty much almost everything, and just wanting to help individual people. She's probably more of a Jedi than she's ever been during that third episode. And I love that she got there. I'm just not entirely sure it was an earned get there, if that makes sense. So I did have a little problem with that. However, the individual episodes themselves were all brilliant for me. I thought it was like, I love seeing her first dive into seeing Order 66 from having her watch Order 66 supposedly, so to speak, from the jail cells in the temple burn, having the clones come in, just be thankful you're not a Jedi anymore, kind of thing. And seeing the second part where she actually gets to go to that place, she has the mask on, we see Lynn in action, we see her making the decision that she wants to not be a part of the Inquisitors anymore. And of course, like I said, that last episode with the healing and the stuff in the cave with Lynn, beautiful stuff, I think, overall. I've talked a lot. Why don't you go ahead with your side of it?
I do agree to an extent. It was one of the things, and I was kind of hoping that you would be the one that took me out of it, but you haven't. I really enjoyed the last episode a lot.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed I think the second episode was the one where I was kind of like, this is good. This is good, but I really loved the first one. I really loved the third one. I thought the whole you don't know the path. I thought that was a nice little as to what could be coming. And then you have Lynn, who is essentially going around. It's the symbolism of a cycle, right? She's stuck in this cycle of hate and vengeance and killing and violence, and she's stuck in this cycle that she feels that she can't escape, and she's trying, and the way she's trying to escape this cycle is by activating her lightsaber and cutting her way out, as opposed to centering herself, finding the way out, and then choosing that option. She's accepting help, and she just ignites the lightsaber. She's like, no, I'll find my own way, and I'll cut my way out. I thought that was really beautiful symbolism. Yeah. The stabbing of Barriss, I'm not even gonna entertain that, because I'm sure the conversation is the same as it always is when someone gets stabbed with a lightsaber. So I'm gonna completely divert away from that conversation. I'm certain that we are probably going to get more Barriss offy stories at some point. My thing, and you kind of alluded to it, I don't want to say it didn't feel earned, because we don't see the story in between, right? We don't see what happens, how she becomes the healer. I think I would have preferred a second episode where we see a little bit. We could have done without the massacre in the village, and we probably could have done a little bit more of seeing how her making this choice to become the healer and how she kind of got there. And I get with these 3 episode arcs, it's really hard to do over a 50-minute episode and like 3 episode arcs. I get.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I'll interject really quickly. I'll let you go from there. I just feel like the story that they're trying to tell needed more than the 3 episodes of 15 minutes. It needed a little bit more fleshing out.
I think so. I think that probably could have, and we may get that. We may get more in a book or in a comic or in another arc of these episodes. We may get it. Again, I don't want to be a hypocrite, and I want to focus on the story. I want to focus the story that's being told here. Keep your concentration that here and now where it belongs.
Right.
Even doing that, I felt like I was missing a piece. And at the minute, I'm kind of on a kick of where a kind of mantra I've kind of adopted is nothing stays forgiven. She killed innocent people, not when she was an Inquisitor, when she was a Jedi.
Right.
And I get this theme of essentially hypocrisy, that she bombed the Jedi Temple and accused the Jedi and framed Ahsoka for, being warmongers and killing innocent people. And I like that she goes into the Inquisitorius and she sees this happening, and she kind of has this realization that she's doing it herself, but she doesn't do any of it.
Right.
Like it's like I guess that I would rather have seen her come to this realization through her own actions as opposed to seeing it happen from someone else. I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at. Like, I felt like she saw what the Jedi were doing and was like, oh, this is wrong. And in this, she saw what the Inquisitors were doing and was like, oh, this is wrong.
Right.
It wasn't like she came to the realization through, she didn't repent through her. I guess this is probably from the amount of time we've had with Crosshair, of like, it was a redemption, but it wasn't an atonement, if that makes sense. It wasn't through her own actions that she realized what I'm doing is wrong. And I feel like to truly learn from your mistakes, you have to be the one to make them. As a father, I'm sure you'll recognize this, of like, you want your children to learn from your mistakes,
right?
But you also want to give them the freedom to make their own so they can learn from their mistakes. I feel like she learned from the mistakes of the Jedi Order. She learned from the mistakes of the Inquisitorius, but she didn't, like, there wasn't that moment where she made a mistake. That in this moment, obviously she made a terrible mistake bombing the Jedi Temple, killing countless innocent people. But then she just goes straight into the Inquisitorius, and she sees, it's almost just like she sees what's happening. I'm just like,
basically,
I would have loved to.
It's all external instead of being internal.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that more internal resolution within herself than just seeing other people do it. Like, she learned from Ahsoka that not all Jedi are murderous, bastards, and she learned from Lynn that the Inquisitors are all murderous bastards. I would have loved for her to have that internal of what I have done is wrong.
Right.
So let me atone for. I guess that's what I'm hoping for more of is more. I'm fine with redemption, but I prefer seeing the character seeking the redemption atone for what they have done, and I don't think she probably did out of story. She's helping these children. That's a really good thing. So maybe that is. I would have loved to have seen more of the actual atonement as opposed to her just kind of being like, oh, I've seen this and that looks wrong. Like, show me that growth.
Right. Absolutely. And I agree with you at that point too. And that's what I mean also about it needing a little more time to do so. I think they need a little more time, but you're not wrong. They need more than just time. It needs to at least kind of explore that aspect. Like, she needs to see, because she's never really said what she did was wrong. She's never admitted.
She's never owned up to it. She's never been like, I
didn't have time to do it. Right, we didn't have time to do that. If we had a moment where we had a conversation between, like, maybe that's what we'll have eventually, Barriss and I. And I think that's a missed opportunity. Like, some people think that Barriss versus Vader was a missed opportunity to get that. I think more importantly, Barriss and Ahsoka not having a scene together was a missed opportunity, especially because Barriss could have had that conversation with Ahsoka, and maybe that's when she could have been like, I own up to my mistakes and I was very wrong. And you know what? I've done a lot of terrible things and I can't do anything about it now, especially now that the Empire's in charge. But what I can do is try to atone the best way I can.
I think that's why I preferred the Morgan arc, because you have the episode where she takes the daughters of the Mountain Clan and she's like, come with me. I've got weapons. We're going to fight. She essentially, bring your daughter to the slaughter.
Right.
She takes the daughters to the slaughter, and like, then she has to live with those actions.
Yep.
And we see her live with those actions. We don't really get that from Barriss. And I completely understand. Don't come for me in the comments or anything that, oh, they didn't have time. I get they didn't have time. Then that is down to them to pick and choose which part of the story is the story that they tell.
Right. And you know what? And I'm not saying their choice wasn't necessarily valid. It still worked overall. Yeah, I think it's a good it still is a good story. I still appreciated it for what it was, absolutely. But you're not wrong, and I get why you mean it, and I get that's why maybe you like the Morgan arc better. Maybe that's a good reason too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that. Okay. So yeah, we're doing that. So I guess that's it for us for that. Let's move on to our next segment. There, we got parsecs.
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
Less than 12 parsecs is 11 because we always turn things up to 11 here on PLD Projects. And basically, what did you score the first arc, Matty, the Morgan arc, out of 11?
I would give it a strong 9.
Strong 9. Okay. I gave it a 7.5.
Okay.
7.5. I wasn't like I said, overly thrilled, but I did enjoy it. You know what? Actually, I'm going to bump it up to an 8 because I did actually, after talking to you, I like it even more. Sometimes that happens when I talk it out. I'm like, yeah, I see that. I like that. I like that. I like that. It did a lot of heavy lifting for me on a character that I, wasn't exactly itching to find out more about, but it did its job. And now that I've seen this, I want to see more. So yeah, I get that.
And I also want to say that arc to me felt more of a Tales of the Empire. Barris's one could have easily have been a Tales of the Jedi arc.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it almost feels like Tales of the Dark Side should have been the name of it instead of Tales of the Empire, because Barris wasn't really Empire. I mean, it was a little bit, but hell, we had some moments that were not. I mean, well, I guess still Inquisitor is part of the Empire, so it's those two.
She's turning back to the light in 2 out of the 3 episodes, so I'm saying that's a Tales of the Jedi arc.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. That's fair. All right. So how about the Barris arc? Then what's your score there on the Barris?
I'll give a solid 8.5, just because like that second episode, and I enjoyed it, and I think again 1 and 3, fantastic, beautiful storytelling, especially 3. I especially love 3. I just would have loved to have seen a few more of the steps of how we got there.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 was the one where I was just like, oh, of course she's gonna turn back. Like,
yeah.
She's the Jedi in trouble. Of course she's gonna turn back.
Yeah.
I honestly think, as much as I am the one who loves the dark side and the violence in storytelling, I really do think we could have done without that. The massacre in the village, or like shortened it down. You could have had like just pan out to a shot of the village and people screaming.
Right.
And like you can hear the sound of a lightsaber whirling around.
That's fair.
Like you could have easily like saved time and done that. Like I didn't. But again, that it's a show about the Empire and it's showing the cruelty of the Empire. So maybe for that part of the story, it was needed. But
I get that. I give it a 9.5. I think that despite my misgivings about the steps, I think it really did stick the ending so well for me that I was happy. Like that, it bumped everything up, especially as a mirror to the first episode for me. I thought those were beautifully done storytelling wise. I agree. The second episode is a great standalone episode. It doesn't really do what it needs to do. It doesn't really carry the weight it needs to storytelling wise. I guess that's the way to do it, like to connect the 3 episodes together. But the second one does like just as a pure like story, like without any of the baggage. It was a cool, like I said, I liked the Master Slaughter. I liked Barris turning back a little bit. I mean, seeing a dark user decide that this isn't for her, and have that triumphant moment of like, there's one more Jedi left. That was great. Great line. Definitely a great line, even if it does kind of dove a little bit. But I do think the one way it does connect is that, like, I remember going, well, she's not really a Jedi, though. She doesn't like the Jedi. She still doesn't like the Jedi just because they do that. But at the same time, it was more of a case of you have to realize she didn't like the Jedi Order that had become. She liked the Jedi itself, just not the Jedi orders. It's like
when essentially a Jedi in its purest form, right? Essentially.
And that's by the time we get to 3, she is doing what she thinks as Jedi should be doing, and she's probably right. That's how a Jedi should be. She does love Jedi that way, so it worked out for me at the end. But again, 9.5. So I did appreciate it. So, all right, one last segment there before we get to before we wrap things up here. This one is our Force Vision.
Premonitions.
All right, where are we going to go with these arcs? Anything specifically you want to see more of, or we predict is going to happen more of? Why don't we start with the first one? I think this is the harder one to do.
It's kind of tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it literally goes straight into that episode of The Mandalorian.
Yep. I'm going to go
I
first.
would like to see a little, because it's kind of, that's going more into explore more lore territory. Force Vision.
I'll give you mine.
Yeah, you go ahead. You go first.
I think what we're going to do, honestly, the best part about like predicting the future is we're going to see Pelion and Thrawn get together more. And we're going to unite them. And because Rook's out of the picture at this point now in the Mandalorian era. So we're going to have Thrawn. We're going to have Pelion. And, well, we'll have to see what happens in the future with the other Night Sisters or anything like that. But definitely Thrawn and Pelion are the big ones there together. I can't wait to see that duo finally in action together. We haven't yet to get that in canon.
Yeah, I'm curious. Okay, I think the and this is probably a massive cop out one, but it's kind of the only one I can think of, is we're gonna get Thrawn's like big grand plan in Filoni's movie. I think everything that Zahn has written to a point. You know, you got the Heir to the Empire, and then you have the newer Thrawn trilogy, where we kind of established that Thrawn is somewhat of an anti-hero, which is personally not the Thrawn that I really like. But I feel like we're going to get the big grand design that Thrawn thought he had. That maybe, you know, he was looking to overthrow Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
And now that Palpatine's technically out of the way, he's like, let me just go and become the Emperor real quick.
Yes. I like that.
Because he even says it, right? He's like, the Empire is a fine construct. It's just the people that it's just the people essentially. They don't root out these problems at the core like the rebellion, whereas he does.
Right.
So it's like he has his eyes on the Empire. He just knows that it's not being run correctly. So when he gets himself into a position where he can say, hey, I'm the captain now.
I'm the captain now, but yep, absolutely. All right, cool. Let's move on then to the next arc there and go our Force Vision from there. I'll just say it what we all are thinking. I think this is all leading to the past show. So I think all the roads, all the paths lead to the path. I think the cave was a great moment. We didn't even talk about the cave too much. Cave always being such a Star Warsian trope of finding yourself. Does it again here. I think that this is going to lead us to a path show. Maybe we'll get some history on Barriss joining the path. Maybe I wonder if the case is like, is the path show take place before this episode? So you get to see Barriss involved. Maybe Barriss and Asajj get together at some point. Maybe that's where you get the fill-in. Like between 2 and 3, we get to see after 2, she went and found the path with Asajj, or maybe even with Ahsoka at some point. You get a little more drama that way. But I think that's going to be the case. I would be surprised at all if we get Barriss as part of the show. Maybe not like a every week kind of character, but like a featured character, kind of like Rex in the Bad Batch. You see Barriss come back every once in a while and have some conversations with her, and go from there. But that's my thoughts, my initial thoughts on the Force Vision of this one. What about you?
I agree. I fully agree. I think that's kind of the Yada moment of, you know, it's gonna be a part. I do want to spin this. I'm going to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
For the future of these anthology series.
Yep.
I just want one. Give me the first one that comes to your mind. What's the next one you want to see?
Tales of the Pirates, because I want freaking Hondo Ohnaka. I mean, that's like the thing that it's comes to my mind. That like I wanted to do something else, but you had to say I can't have Hondo. That's different. It might be a different story. If I can't have Hondo, then I do want to go Tales of the Rebellion.
Okay.
I don't think it's something
go
like that.
Maybe to Rebellion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Interesting. I'm going Tales of the Gungans.
Okay, that's fair.
After rewatching The Phantom Menace, I'm like, what did Jar Jar do that was like so clumsy? I mean, I know he crashed the boss's Haber, then vanished, but like we never see it.
That's a good point.
We never actually see how did Captain Tarples become Captain Tarples?
That's a good point.
Boss Nass become Boss Nass.
Good point. Good points. All absolutely. I love it.
or for Brian Ward's sake, I will take Tales from the Diner.
Oh well, yeah. Tales from the Diner would always work for me as well. Let's be honest with each other here. We love
that has to happen for Brian Ward's sake alone. That
absolutely.
That show needs to happen.
Cheers to Brian Ward for that. I'll award that for him. So I'd love it too. I love me Dex. I think that Dex would be great. You could have Dex. You could have War. You could have Maz Kanata could technically admit he's part of that in a way. Her club there. Got the that character that was in The Mandalorian briefly. We could do something like that potentially. A lot of things you could do with Tales from the Diner. Yeah, the diners, as you say, restaurateurs, as it were.
I'm still wanting my Hell's Kitchen show, like Kitchen Nightmare show with Dex as the host. Like Dex is Gordon Ramsay.
It's raw. Yes, 4 hands to do it. So you can do like 2 idiot sandwiches together.
Yeah, 2 idiot sandwiches.
All right, that'll do it for us this week, folks. Matt, where can folks find you?
You guys can find me there on all social medias. For the audio listeners, that's at Matty Mourner. You can find my band Mourner at MOURNER band on all streaming platforms. Brand new song out to get you. It's doing surprisingly well, considering it was a song that we wrote nearly 2 years ago. That one's been sitting on the back burner for like 2 years. So having it finally out, I was kind of like, oh, people are probably going to hate this one. But nah, pretty good numbers. Streams are good. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Just wait for the next one.
Excellent. Find me at Pawn Square News on Twitter. You can find me all over this channel, of course. We have a review. I do with Lego every 2 weeks about V. I do Crown Jewels. My story with my journey with Queen. And this week, I believe it's In Only 7 Days, a lovely John Deacon piano ballad. We also I do Tribute for White Dudes on Film with PJ Campbell, do franchises leaning horror generally. Oh, that's going on a small hiatus as we tackle in the Big Blue Box with the new season of Doctor Who popping up very shortly. We're going to do that, cover that well. And
are you going to be watching the new episode when it drops, or are you going to give it a little bit?
I'll probably watch it when it drops or pretty close to it. Depending on what I'm doing. Although our coverage will be a couple of days later. It's not going to be like Holy Snokes where I watch it that morning and I do something that day, that afternoon. I have a little bit of time to reflect on it, which might be a good thing. It might be a good thing for sure. Yeah, that's what we're going to do for a little bit here. We'll get back to you about next week's episode here. Again, there'll probably be a news update, and we have some other ideas potentially to throw out there. And then maybe another podcast we might need to make mention of at one point or another, but I'll just let that lie for now.
Is it the one that we talked about last week?
Potentially, maybe. Something might be in the works. Might be. You just leave that like that. You know, as it is. I'm not busy enough. I'm not busy enough.
When we look back on it, we won't look back in anger.
All right, my friends. If you like this thing, hit a like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff on the audio feed, on the YouTube page. Join our Patreon, patreon.com/PLD Projects. Got people like Brandon Buckingham, Alison Goodell. Bunch of cool people like that. We have a great little Facebook chat going as well. If you can't, totally get it. Just do your best to get our name out there. I'd like to have you guys become a community. And yeah,
600 followers. Can we celebrate that real quick? 600 followers.
We do. We have 602.
602 subscribers.
That's a small but steady climb that we've been doing. We're aiming for that 1,000.
I like that though, because it shows that we have our community. You know, we have our small community of people that watch us, and I would rather have like 600 people that, you know, regularly check us out than 100,000 that are just like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Where's the next? This TikTok generation, bro. Call me a boomer, but like everyone's like 30 seconds, right? Next thing. 30 seconds, the next thing. 30 seconds, the next thing.
I can't do it. Can't
do it.
Not with us. We're cozy. We like to chill things out here. So. That's it, folks, this week. Stay tuned for next episode. Until then, as always, may the force be with you. Always.